So they put me in the hospital for that. And that was full of infection. And so then it would happen to be when that appointment was, and that doctor seen that I had some hospital stuff on me, and he checked it out and he said, "You're so full of infection, we aren't going to operate on this." He said, "I can't because we don't want to get that up there." So that never did get done.
But you have some feet problem as of today, Roy, and you had one doctor tell you, I mean, not everybody agrees on that, but about what caused your feet about.
Yeah, my feet, I went down, well, when this was all going on, I could walk, you know, I mean, and then all at once, my feet started acting funny. They weren't turned over, but they started acting funny. So I went down there. Well, then I did have infection in this one, and they said, "Well, you're lucky we didn't have to take it off." They took the little toe and damn near down to my heel, just took that out of there. And then they said, "Well, your feet are turning in. What's causing it?" "I don't know. You're the doctor."
First question. Does the Veterans Hospital take care of all your health needs?
Expenses.
Yep. And is that because you were in the Army, or is it because you were a subject of
anybody in the Army can go down to Vets Hospital. That's the way I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Whether you were overseas or not.
Yeah. Well, but some people pay for their medication. I have never paid for any medication down here. So I don't know what that deal is.
Do you have health issues that you just, would attribute to that testing time, or do you think?
Did what with that?
Well, any of the health issues you've had over the years, do you think they're from testing, or do you think they're just from getting old?
I know some of it. I actually think now all of it is. Mm-hmm. Because there isn't anybody in our family goes back as far as it goes, and nobody ever had feet turn over like this. Yeah. And I think it's all that high radiation I got. The doctor down there said, with all that radiation, I'm surprised that you're living.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It'd be interesting to try to find out if anybody else.
Yeah. You have no idea if there's anybody survived that.
Have no idea. Now, the ones I knew, and they never, they could have moved, because.
Interesting. Well, I'll tell you what, do you want anything else, Jason? I think we.
No, that story's good.
Right. That's from Prohibition days, and then Templeton Rye, and the guys around home, farmers, they would all cook it. And there was a farmer northwest of Ashmole. He drove a gas truck, and the one department in that gas truck never did haul gas. They'd go. He had a great big still in the creek bank.
Who was that farmer, Roy?
Klaus Hansen.
Klaus Hansen.
And then they hauled whiskey in that. It was Eric's garage at that time.
Eric's garage is the one that supplied the truck.
Yeah, the old man, Eric's Emil,
Emil Eric's, yeah.
So he'd drive around and deliver fuel, and then if somebody wanted to get some whiskey, they could get that too.
Well, then they'd haul it over to Templeton, and that's where it was bottled.
Okay.
So they went and hauled it. I suppose they sold it. I don't know. That was just a little bit ahead of my time.
Yep.
I didn't help haul whiskey.
Yeah, but growing up around here, you heard the stories and stuff. And even though you grew up sort of after Prohibition and everything, when you were growing up, did you run across anybody making it, or did you know anybody that was still doing it after Prohibition, or?
Oh, yes, I knew some.
Other than Keith.
Well,
You don't want to mention names.
I'm not asking names. I'm more
But
just.
yes, he does. I'm sure you do.
If you had any, you don't even have to say names. It's just more if you had any stories or experiences with it that are interesting
I
stories.
guess it's legal to make so much now,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just being made yet.
Mm-hmm. Do you drink it?
What?
Do you drink it?
Nope, I drink beer.
Stick with the Miller Lite.
Roy has always had a very constant diet, you know. But it was interesting. I had heard about the caterpillars and stuff, and how the dummies were in the houses. But it's amazing how our government set that all up and kept everybody in the blind on that.
Yeah, I can't believe that. I mean, I guess that's part of being in the military, that you just do what you're told.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't imagine just being put closer and closer and closer to bigger and bigger bombs, just
Well,
to see whether it hurt you.
We didn't know what, you know, you're dumb. That's what.
Well, and you trust.
I think everybody else was just as dumb.
And then you trust them. You trust the people who are telling you to do it, right?
You know, I mean, because today you wouldn't get me to do that. And that's the reason, after a while, they said that's the reason there's so much cancer in Iowa and Wisconsin.
From fallout.
That fallout.
Wow.
See, them clouds would always drift away to the northeast.
So they didn't want them to get into
And
California.
they said that's where the fallout came from that. Well, we couldn't, not right now, you can take a trip and go down there and you can take a bus tour in there, and they won't let you out of the bus because you can't walk on that ground yet because there's too much radiation in it.
Maybe you should go take one of those tours just to see if it brings back any memories.
I wish I could, but I'm not good enough.
you
Should have done that 10 years ago, shouldn't have? That would have been interesting.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, even though you can't look up the people that you're with, we can look and see whether there's anybody else telling their story. You know, it'd be interesting to see whether we can find other people telling their story now and compare
When we
them.
would come back in from them tests, well, see, after when we got out the last time, we drove our own trucks that we had in Washington. We drove them down, and then we would take them out there with our mine detectors and that in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we come back in, when we drove out, we drove past, I think it was where they assemble them. It was fenced off and nobody got in there, just the workers. And I think that's where they assembled the bomb, as far as what I know. And but when we come back in the backside of that, then they run a Geiger counter over you, and if you had too much radiation, then you take your stuff out of the pockets and put it in a bag and go in and take all your clothes off and shower, and then when you come back out, you get all new clothes. But I never ever got new shoes, and them shoes had to be loaded with radiation. So I think, you know, I'm thinking
Yeah.
that.
Did anyone ever get like sick to their stomach, or did their hair fall out, or anything like that?
No, I've never had any problem.
Even like there though, when you were on the base, did people get sick, like radiation sickness or anything like that?
No.
That's wild.
No, I don't think you got sick from it. I mean, I don't know. Nothing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know
I'll
either.
tell you.
Well, thanks for sharing your
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Keith's been talking about it for a while, and just it'd be good to get it on tape. You know, people can hear you talk about your story. So I'll shut this off unless anyone else has anything to say.